In today's world, it's easy to fog up your mind with the never-ending struggles of work, family, friends, and the worst culprit of all, the internet. This can lead to an overwhelmed mind that struggles to concentrate on life. And this is what this book aims to solve, which is Your Head is a Houseboat by Campbell Walker, better known online as Truthless. Your Head is a Houseboat is a chaotic guide to mental clarity and focuses on dividing your brain into different compartments to help you understand why you think the way that you do. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing the 4 main takeaways I got from this book and why I think that you should read it too. Let's get straight into it. One of this book's first main points is by structuring or thinking of your mind like a houseboat. Not a regular house, but a houseboat with many different compartments. Why a houseboat? As Walker states, houseboats aren't static and can move, much like ourselves. One of my first real likes with this book was by taking this strange, mysterious thing like our mind and turning it into something I could visualize and picture with all of its different rooms. Our brain is like a really weird thing to think about because we're using our brain to think about our brain, which is kind of like Inception. And I really like the use of a houseboat to think of it differently. Now, this houseboat is structured into 7 different compartments, but I'll only be uncovering a few of them because I don't want to spoil the whole book. Now, if you stayed in a houseboat for a night, it'd be normal for you to be curious and want to check out every single room inside of it. If you stayed in it for a year, you'd be pretty comfortable in it, and if you stayed in it for 80 years, then you should know every single room inside and out from memory. Now, the same logic applies to your brain. Why would you live for 80 years and never go into a particular compartment in your brain? It might be scary, but much like the houseboat, aren't you curious to at least check it out because it might not even be as bad as you initially thought it to be? See where we're going here? You're the captain of your own houseboat and you should spend a lot of time learning all the various parts or compartments of your brain. It's easy to focus on the good stuff and the good compartments, but it's even more vital to focus on the bad compartments and the reasoning behind it. The first step towards mental clarity is by cleaning out all the junk or the clutter that's occupying space in your mind. The human brain is capable of storing 2.5 million gigabytes of information. To put that into perspective, that's around 2,300 days of 4K video on a continuous loop, so it's a lot. So with all this storage information, your brain's gonna have a lot of clutter and junk. Clutter, like that random trivia question you always think of, an unexpected shower thought, an appointment you were meant to schedule 4 months ago, a stupid remark your parents made about your eating habits, or wondering what the meaning of life truly is. Not all the clutter in your mind is going to be bad, but it does need to be cleaned up and organized. You don't think of it as often. As Walker states, to clean the trash from a houseboat, you physically move it from one place to another. It can't exist in 2 places at once. So how do we do this? By journaling. I'm generally not someone who actually likes to journal, but I thought I'd give this one a shot and it really worked. For this exercise, Walker gets you to write down everything that's taken up space in your mind. Pull out a journal and start writing anything and everything. Whether it be random facts, things you're self-conscious about, recalling the time you said enjoy your food too to the cashier at Macca's, or a rude remark your English teacher said to you. Write down everything and just keep on writing and writing and writing until it feels like all the clutter and things occupying space up in your mind has been transferred onto some paper. This is how you clear out the clutter, and it's one of the first steps towards mental clarity is by transferring all the thoughts up here onto a physical copy of paper. As we stated, to clean trash, you must physically move it from one place to another. The first time I ever did this exercise, I think I wrote down like maybe a couple or a few pages of just mumble jumble, just everything occupying space in my mind, and my mind just felt a lot less messy afterwards. My third takeaway I got from this book is called Welcome to the Zoo, and it's from chapter 9 of this book. And I know we skipped a few chapters in between, but this one really resonated with me. Walker lists numerous animals in this zoo, like control panel puppy, who butter mashes all day and is responsible for impulses, bodily functions, twitches, and more. The yelling elephant, whose job is to broadcast potential threats to you all day. And the witness protection program bull, whose job is to hold onto your trauma and the most depressing thoughts you've ever had, but then moves around the zoo and messes everything up, including memories, body functions, and more. You might be like, what the fuck are you talking about? This zoo represents your physiology and your subconscious mind and is the foundation to our entire lives. As Walker states, there's nothing to fix or change in this zoo, You just have to observe it and meet it with love. It's kind of like when dogs get the zoomies. They do so because they're just so excited and it's all this pent up energy that they just never release in like one short burst. This isn't a behavior we should fix because it's completely normal, and this is the same compassion that we need to show ourselves. In this journaling exercise, Walker gets you to depict a time you felt a more animalistic side of yourself and describe it in a sentence or two. Let's say you got really angry trying to fix your broken coffee machine over the weekend. Instead of judging yourself for like getting angry, rewrite that sentence as something that all humans do, and on the end of it, add, "and I love that." So now we'd say, humans get really frustrated when they want to fix their favorite appliance but can't, and I love that. This removes a lot of that guilt that you actually had towards that reaction and shows us that we're imperfect with all these biological trademarks that we can't change but we can learn to love. Growing up, and still to this day, I sometimes just randomly clench my hands into a fist, like really tight, for like no apparent reason at all. And I used to get really embarrassed, or I still hate the fact that I did this because it's just kind of like embarrassing for someone to point out, like, what is he doing over there? Like, why is he clenching his hands and like being all weird and stuff? And like my parents would pick up on it, my family would pick up on it, and even like other people would pick up on it and kind of like tell my parents, and it'd be kind of like considered a bit like weird or just like a bit odd. And this chapter made me realize that there are so many biological like trademarks and like imperfections and quirks that we all have that kind of just make us human, and clenching my fist is just like one of mine, I guess. And instead of hating that I do this, I just reframed it as I sometimes randomly clench my hands to a fist for no reason at all, and I love that. I think this chapter made me realize that we actually don't need to like be in control all the time, or like feel like we need to be in control of everything that happens in our lives. And like a path to mental clarity is by realizing this. This chapter breaks down self-talk and does so in a way that incorporates our childhood innocence into it. You pick up this imaginary cup and string phone, and on the other end of the line is kid you. The entire point of this cup and string phone is to talk directly to the kid version of yourself. As Walker states, to truly connect with others, we must first connect with ourselves. We do this by showing ourselves compassion. The answer to winning this uphill battle and creating compassion lies in the way we speak to ourselves. It lies in the cup and string phone. It's like when you feel like you're falling behind in life, or failing at everything, or just thinking that you're not worthy. Now, would you tell kid you that? If not, then you should show yourself a bit more compassion and empathy. The entire purpose of this is just to give yourself the same kind of compassion that you would have given the kid version of yourself. Now, this final journaling exercise is to be mean to yourself. Find a photo of the happy kid you and think of the last time you were mean or awful to yourself. It could be about your looks, personality, lack of accomplishments, really anything, and now tell all of those negative thoughts to kid you. The photo I chose was my 6.5-year-old self who just won Aussie of the Month at my school and was ecstatic with myself. As Walker mentions, I felt awful that this happy kid in this photo is the same person that I'm telling all these negative thoughts to only 15 years later. Deep down, I'm still this kid at heart, and this exercise really helped me show myself a bit of non-judgmental love. I wouldn't say these things to 6-year-old me, so why should I say them to myself now? I think this was really just such a fitting final chapter for this book, as this kid version of us is still alive in us, but it just might be burrowed under years or like decades of conforming to normal life and just growing up. I think this exercise will help you bring a bit more love to yourself, and like you're still this kid version of yourself. You might be 10, 20, 30 years older with a few extra kilos and like a few more wrinkles, but you can still treat yourself to the same kind of compassion that you would have treated kid you. I really love this book, and I think that Walker has this grasp on the internet and like so many references that so many writers like fail to comprehend and understand. The references aren't tacky or cringe, and he sprinkles them all throughout the book. I also really like this book because the topics aren't over-explained to a point that just like pisses you off. And like the book is less than like 160 pages, and I don't think there's anything worse than reading a book where the topics are just stretched out over dozens of pages to fill that quota of finishing a book. Your head as a houseboat doesn't have that problem, and you could easily finish it in a day, but I think it might take a bit longer just to do all the journaling exercises accompanying it. This book covers serious topics, but in a much more light-hearted way. I think it works so well because the illustrations demonstrate key points. It makes you kind of realize just how complex and nuanced life is, and how many things we go through daily, like whether it be decision making or just life things. I think this is a really good book that anyone could read and like have a great time doing so, like whether they're 12 or 70 years old. This book makes you understand like how your brain operates and like a path to mental clarity, and it talks about things that you just may never talk about with others. It's serious, but it's also not too serious. It made me laugh in like many different chapters, and it made me uncover my thoughts and a lot of the reasoning behind them. Now, to finish this video off, I'm just gonna be sharing my favorite line from this book. We do know that the whole time life is occurring, you're stuck with the same you in the same head. So it makes sense to make this head as nice as a place to stay in as possible.